With the first anniversary of Marka-e-Haq approaching, the short war between Pakistan and India of 2025, I'm your host Ahmed Hassan al-Arabi, and together we will examine the untold events surrounding this short war and events leading to it in a series of short episodes, and we'll try to understand what actually happened and to separate fact from layers of misinformation in today's media-driven environments. Let's find out what was not told before. In today's information battleground, the wars are waged in mind sculpted with hashtags shaped by sound bites and legitimized through nationalistic narratives. India appears to have honed false flag operations into a signature strategy. But as they say, there never was a perfect crime. And each time, India has failed to orchestrate these attacks with perfection. From shadowy inconsistencies in official statements to buried or discredited testimonies from retired military insiders to whistleblowers in the police and judiciary, each episode exposes a method behind the madness. What initially appear as isolated incidents of terror, upon closer inspection, reveal a calculated sequence of state-enabled deceit. Time and again, terror has worn the tricolour as a disguise to manufacture consent, stoke nationalism, and isolate Pakistan. The weaponization of crises has become a defining feature of India's statecraft under the BJP's Hindutva-driven leadership. It reflects an approach where violence is staged and facts are molded to fit a pre-approved script that glorifies the state and crushes dissent. From the corridors of New Delhi to valleys of Kashmir, terror-related incidents bear the same fingerprints: impeccable timing, swift blame, suppressed inquiry, and political advantage. Such incidents include Chhattisgarh massacre of Sikhs in 2000, attack on Indian Parliament 2001, Samjhauta Express burning of 2007, Mumbai attacks 2008, Pathankot attack 2016, Uri attack 2016, and Phalgham-a attack 2019. These incidents, initially blamed on Pakistan, were later exposed as false flag operations or found to have been committed by Indian nationals. The latest in the series of Indian false flag operation was the Phalgham incident of April 2025. Taken together, these episodes paint a chilling portrait, not of external aggression, certainly not, but of internal orchestration. The myth of India's perpetual victimhood begins to crumble when seen historically through the lens of these carefully choreographed spectacles.
विमान अपहरण कांड 1999 भाजपा सरकार, कारगिल युद्ध 1999 भाजपा सरकार, संसद पर आतंकी हमला 2001 भाजपा सरकार, अक्षरधाम मंदिर पर आतंकी हमला 2002 भाजपा सरकार, अमरनाथ यात्रियों पर आतंकी हमला 2002 और 2017 दोनों बार भाजपा सरकार, गोधरा कांड, पठानकोट आतंकी हमला, उरी आतंकी हमला, पुलवामा आतंकी हमला, पहलगाम आतंकी हमला 2025 भाजपा सरकार। बिहार चुनाव करीब है और देश में जैसे ही चुनाव करीब आते हैं कहीं न कहीं आतंकी हमला हो ही जाता है।
From Chhattisgarh to Pulwama, a chilling consistency binds the tragedies that scarred India's timeline. One where terror was a spectacle, truth the first casualty, and power the ultimate prize. These are not isolated events, but chapters in the meticulously written playbook of manufactured threats, each staged to silence dissent, ignite nationalism, and malign Pakistan. Remember that the attacker of 2019 Pulwama attack, Adil Ahmed Dar, was a local Kashmiri of Indian-occupied Kashmir region. And India has been in denial of local Kashmiri struggle for independence against Indian atrocities, and blaming Pakistan is always in their playbook. It was on 22nd April 2025, the Baisran Valley in Phalgham, a tourist destination in the illegally Indian-occupied Kashmir, turned into a killing field. Approximately 1:45 p.m., 5 armed men suddenly emerged from the pine forest. Over the next 10 minutes, gunfire struck 3 locations, killing 26, including 24 Indian tourists, a Nepali national, and a Kashmiri pony operator, Syed Adil Hussain Shah, who reportedly tried to disarm one of the assailants. 17 others were injured. Within minutes, India branded the massacre an act of cross-border terrorism, attributing it to Pakistan despite the absence of any verified link to militant networks or infiltrators from across the border. As details surfaced, so did doubts. The evidence raised troubling questions about the nature of the attack and the speed with which the official narrative took shape. The sequence of events appeared to support a storyline that legitimized aggressive posturing, both military and political. Each action appeared to serve a broader strategy designed to conceal truths and manage public perception in a way that justified escalation, rallied nationalistic sentiment, and neutralized dissenting voices. The weeks preceding the Phalgham attack were marked by the string of subtle yet telling developments suggestive of a broader trajectory. The official First Information Report (FIR) states that firing ceased at 2:20 p.m. and was lodged at the Phalgham police station by 2:30 p.m. only 10 minutes later, despite officers needing to traverse roughly 6 kilometers of steep terrain. The FIR places the violence between 1:50 p.m. and 2:20 p.m. and already labels the assailants as unknown cross-border terrorists acting at the behest of foreign handlers. Phrasing that implicitly points beyond India's borders without naming a state. Within hours of Phalgham bloodshed, the Indian government defaulted to its familiar script of attributing the attack to cross-border terrorists. But behind this accusation lay a foundational document, the FIR, which paints a murkier picture, offering more confusion than clarity. Rather than reinforcing the government's account, the FIR introduces glaring discrepancies such as conflicting timelines, logistical improbabilities, omitted procedural protocols, and a pace of action that borders on the impossible for the chaos that had just unfolded. The Baisran Valley is located 6 kilometers uphill from the police station. Reaching the site in a rugged, unforgiving terrain gripped by chaotic post-attack conditions would require considerable time. Yet the FIR implies that police not only arrived at the scene but also secured the area, gathered witness statements, and drafted a formal report, all within a span of 10 minutes. Even under routine conditions, such documentation typically takes hours. The press frenzy was followed by intelligence leaks. A bustling tourist magnet, which, despite the heightened alert, had been left inexplicably unguarded. On 20th April, 2 days before the tragedy, the plot thickened. Local authorities operating under the purview of India's Home Ministry permitted tourist access to Baisran Valley without standard security clearance. The tourist attraction is accessible only by foot or horseback. Typically, this remains closed until the Amarnath Yatra begins. Yet this time, no security cordon was established. Access remained unrestricted. Indian media later flagged this lapse, with some outlets raising question of administrative failure, alluding either to grave negligence or betrayal. The absence of prior security in a well-known high-risk tourist zone raised serious questions about preparedness and oversight. Indian National Investigation Agency later uncovered that Baisran Valley had been opened to tourists on 20th April without formal authorization, a breach suggestive of internal procedural failure. Questions lingered about who allowed access, why security was absent, and whether these oversights were accidental or systemic. And if this tourist place was opened on 20th April, how would so-called cross-border terrorists plan the plot in one day and execute it flawlessly? Little-known group, the Resistance Front, TRF, initially claimed responsibility via social media, citing India's settlement policies in Kashmir as per Indian media channels. But on 26 April, the group retracted its claims, a rare move in such contexts. Historically, Kashmiri freedom fighters have never targeted civilians and tourists, as their past attacks have been recorded solely against Indian-occupied armed forces. The Indian media's hasty blame of TRF, the dubious telegram claim, and the group's categorical denial expose a chilling truth. The Phalgham attack was less about terror and more about narrative engineering. TRF, with its murky ties and convenient timing, emerged as a scapegoat in the Modi's government's grand playbook, framed to stoke fear, silence Kashmiri dissent, and corner Pakistan diplomatically. India dismissed the retraction and instead named Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, the ISI, and Lashkar commander Saifullah Qasuri as masterminds, offering no evidence whatsoever. As the smoke from the Phalgham attack dissipated, a more complex story began to take shape. Their story was not driven by official statements or media briefings, but by those who had witnessed the carnage firsthand. Survivors, locals, and grieving families stepped forward with accounts that contradicted key elements of the official narrative. A BBC investigation raised critical questions. There were no CCTV cameras in a major tourist hotspot. Police response was delayed by an hour. Yet the images of the attackers surfaced almost instantly. A total security flaw, they concluded. What had initially been presented as a straightforward case of cross-border terrorism quickly began to unravel amid missing evidence, delayed responses, and contradictory timelines. These are red flags that amplify calls for accountability. Within 24 hours of the Phalgham attack, Indian security forces released unusually detailed sketches of the alleged assailants. Soon after, media outlets disseminated the photographs of 4 suspects. It was later revealed that none of the individuals in those sketches were involved in the attack. Besran Valley lies 7 kilometers north of Phalgham town in Anantnag district. The nearest CRPF camp is positioned 7 kilometers to the west, while the Rashtriya Rifles base stands just 5 kilometers to the southwest. Then come the map's chilling legend. No CCTV or security post within 5-kilometer radius of the attack zone. How could a tourist hotspot nestled in the heavily militarized region be left without even basic surveillance? The LOC, the heavily militarized de facto border between Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan, lies 230 kilometers northwest of Besran. Now remember, the line of control is one of the most fortified, heavily fortified regions in the world, and it is fenced by Indian side, not Pakistan. It has layers and layers of barbed wires, electrified fences, barriers, ditches, posts, watchtowers, and illuminated with strong sodium lights which are visible from space even. The line of control at Kashmir border was not initially fenced due to its disputed status. India had always been blaming Pakistan for sponsoring cross-border infiltration of alleged freedom fighters in Indian-occupied Kashmir. However, in 2001, India constructed fence at Kashmir border as well, which was completed in 2004. At present, it is heavily fortified, multi-layered border fence system known as anti-infiltration obstacle system. It has electrified fences with AI optical, infrared, acoustic sensors, and round-the-clock manned border patrols and border posts at visual distance. So blaming of cross-border terrorists infiltration to 30 kilometers deep in Indian-controlled Kashmir territory, which is heavily guarded with more than 700,000 regular and paramilitary forces having checkpoint between every village, is defiance of basic logic. Besran's geography does not lie. The 230 kilometers trek from the LOC defies the infiltration logic. The security void defies reason. The escape defies reality. Maps do not bend to narratives, they expose them. And here they reveal a contradiction so stark it fractures the official version. India's story of a daring Pakistani strike crumbles under the weight of distances, timelines, and terrain. Was this truly a terrorist assault or a theater of war crafted to serve political ends? The pines of Phalgham whisper truths that the podiums will not voice. Perhaps the real trigger was not pulled across the border, but much closer to the home. The Phalgham attack stands as one of the most confounding security failures in recent memory. In a region saturated with military presence, the Besran Valley became a security mirage, prematurely open to tourists, left unguarded, and stripped of surveillance. Intelligence warnings repeatedly went unheeded. Cameras remained inactive, and security forces were nowhere in sight for nearly an hour as the attack unfolded. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge revealed that Modi had received prior intelligence and even cancelled a planned Kashmir visit. This contradiction struck at the heart of India's version of events. The attack was strategically timed with the visit of US Vice President J.D. Vance, amplifying global attention and reinforcing India's claim of cross-border terrorism. The real question no longer centers on whether these were false flags, as the evidence speaks for itself. The question now is, will India ever stand trial before the truth, or will it keep waving a blood-stained flag in the name of unity, hoping the world remains too distracted to ask who dyed it red? Stay tuned for our next episodes, where we will unfold the further developments leading up to the war.